As with so many things we talk about here at Nomad Capitalist, renouncing your U.S. citizenship comes with a lot of myths. People have a lot of outdated ideas. We're going to clear up 5 of the most common myths in this video. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson, and when it comes to renouncing U.S. citizenship, a lot of people have some outdated ideas. Laws have changed, and there's a lot of information out there that is simply urban legend. Now, as with so many of the things that we talk about here at Nomad Capitalist, I like to learn from experience, and having gone through this process, I want to speak to 5 of the most common myths that just won't die and set the record straight. So the first myth about citizenship renunciation is I have to sell all of my assets. I have to close all of my bank accounts. I have to give up all my credit cards. Perhaps people get this confused because these are some of the processes that people in other countries have to go through to become tax non-resident. So they leave Australia, they leave Canada, they need to cut their ties. When you're renouncing U.S. citizenship, it doesn't really have anything to do with the bank accounts that you have. In fact, the U.S. government actually encourages non-citizens to bank in the United States because there's no interest income tax for non-resident aliens the way that there is for citizens. So if you own a house in the U.S., if you own raw land you wanted to build your summer cabin on, if you have bank accounts, if you have U.S. companies, you can keep all of those. You can't keep your S-Corp, but you can keep LLCs, you can keep C corporations, you can keep your personal banks, you can even keep your credit cards. Now, of course, I can't speak for every particular bank's policy, so there may be some bank that you have that says, no, we don't want to deal with non-U.S. citizens. But what I can tell you is that not only do the banks allow you to earn your interest, and the IRS allows you to earn interest tax-free as a non-resident alien once you're gone, but there are some banks that even open credit accounts for non-resident aliens if you have a social security number. So you don't have to sell your assets in almost any case. It's certainly not a government requirement. Myth number 2, you've got to pay taxes for 10 years after you leave. Now, if you look at the exit tax requirements from the IRS, they've been imposing various requirements for renunciants over the years. It was back in the 90s when there was a high-profile renunciation. People got upset. They said, okay, we're going to put in some rules that if you renounce, you can't just leave the tax net right away. And for a while, it was that, hey, you have to file and you've got to pay for 10 years after you leave. That was later replaced with a exit tax procedure where we've covered in one of our other videos, if you have more than $2 million, if you've paid a lot of federal tax in the last 5 years, if you're not tax compliant, you're going to be subject to an exit tax. It's binary. Either you're subject to it or you're not. No longer is there a requirement that you have to pay or to comply for 10 years. You file a final tax return and you move on with your life. Myth number 3, I don't get Social Security. We made a video on this as well. This may be a minor consideration, especially for folks who are the 6 and 7 income figure earners that we talk about and we talk to on this channel. When I went, before my procedure, I went and looked at Social Security. You can go on the website, you can figure out how much you're going to get, and I'm entitled to a whopping $1,200 when I turn whatever the age will be at that time. That money's there because as much as Social Security is essentially a Ponzi scheme, the money is yours, quote unquote, and so they'll pay it to pretty much anywhere in the world. There are a few exceptions to that, but you can get that Social Security because you've earned it. Obviously, you won't be paying into it anymore, but whatever you have when you leave, you will keep. You won't generally keep Medicare because you need to be a resident. You won't keep military or other government pension benefits generally, but you do keep Social Security. Myth number 4 is you don't keep your Social Security number. People have asked, well, what do I do if I want to go and open a U.S. bank account or want to do something, or I'm asked, what happens to my Social Security number? Nothing. You have a Social Security number for life. The government really views you in that sense, not as a person, but you're a number. You have that 9-digit number, and so you can use that. Again, there are some institutions that will say, okay, come in and get credit with us. If you have a Social Security number and you have a credit and you have good credit, we'll issue credit, even if you don't live here. Obviously, you want to be honest with them and say, I'm an alien, I'm not a citizen, and I don't live here, but that Social Security number can be used for various things. You don't lose it. It's not taken away from you. And myth number 5 is that you can never return to the country. There is something called the Reid Amendment, which has never been successfully implemented, or maybe in one case, where they said, okay, if we think that you left for tax reasons, and we can prove it, then we're going to deny you entry. You're going to be inadmissible. It's really been extremely unworkable. Now, could they come up with a more workable version of that in the future and say, hey, people who had to pay the exit tax, those covered expatriates, we don't want them to come back. Or, hey, if you renounce, no matter what you have, even if you have $2, hey, you can't come back. They could always do that. And certainly, as more nationalist sentiment grows up, hey, that's always a possibility. But the reality is that a renunciant in the eyes of the State Department for purposes of admissibility is the same as any other non-citizen. You're either a citizen of a visa waiver program country or Canada, in which case you just show up, or you're not, in which case you go to a U.S. embassy, you have a visa appointment, you show, hey, I'm not planning on living there, I'm just coming for this conference, or I'm coming to see my mother, or I'm doing whatever you're going to be doing. You tell them what you're going to be doing, here's my travel, and I'm going to come back in a week, in 2 weeks, whatever. And they give you a visa or they don't. Now, obviously there is a lot of there are conspiracy theories about this, about how the State Department is out to get people. What I've generally found is that while you might find certain people in the bureaucracy who don't like it, generally they're there to do a job. Either you're admissible or you're not admissible. And so it's important, if you need to get a visa, okay, make sure that you are someone who deserves a visa. So there's definitely work to do on all of these things. But the reality is it's a lot easier in terms of the cleanup work than most people would think. You don't have to shut down everything that you own. You don't have to close every account. You don't have to, just change your life entirely. Obviously, it's a big change, but if you understand these myths and remove them from your life, you can hopefully make a more informed decision and understand the process isn't as confusing as you may have been led to believe. I'm Andrew Henderson, and if you're looking for a way to legally reduce your taxes, build your freedom, and create wealth faster as a global citizen, then you've come to the right place. I want you to do 3 things right now. Number 1, click the button to subscribe to our channel. Make sure to get notifications so you never miss a new video. Number 2, get a copy of our #1 best-selling book, Nomad Capitalist, on Amazon and learn all the dozens of benefits of our lifestyle. And number 3, if you're already a 6 or 7-figure entrepreneur and you want to put these strategies in place, go to nomadcapitalist.com and find out how to get some help.